1. Me, Faith, 17 at the time, dyed black hair, glasses, extremely introverted, could be considered neckbeard bait, short, curvy, gothic, big into anime, video games, and cosplay. Gundam beard, your average neckbeard, always looked dirty, a beard that was only like half an inch from connecting to his chest. Always wore the same Minecraft shirt to every class, didn't know the meaning of personal space or what a boundary line was. Mason, my older brother, extremely protective, karate expert, loves wrestling, always willing to listen and offer that oh-so-wise advice. Phoenix, close friend of mine and Mason's, big teddy bear of a man, 6'4", big into Vikings, plays a minor role in this story. Link, mother hen of the group, 6'5", mountain of a man, oldest of our little squad, and was always the ride to anywhere we wanted to go. Big fan of The Legend of Zelda. Now, let's get into the story. I'm from a little town with a small technical college right beside the high school. The fall after I graduated high school, I was homeschooled. I started to the college under a criminal justice major. We were mostly known for just cosmetology, welding, and nursing. None of those were a fit for me, since I suck at hair and makeup, needles make me anxious, and nobody trusted me with a welding torch. First day of class, I noticed this guy staring at me. At first I shrugged it off and kept listening to the lecture. It was math class, and I'll be the first to admit I suck at math. Always have. I sat in the front so that I could get out the door easier when class was over. But who sat 2 seats down? You guessed it, Gundam beard. I thought the looks were just the judgmental looks I was used to. Boy, was I wrong. After we were let out, I immediately laughed and headed out of the building, since it was my last class for the day. And so began 2 years of hell. Fast forward to Thursday. And today my teacher was late, of course. So I took the time to run to the student lounge and get myself a soda and some pizza-flavored bootleg cheese puffs to combat my horrible blood sugar spikes, and headed back to the classroom. I get there, and who was standing against the wall, smelling like BO and a cheap car exhaust? Gundam beard. He noticed my supernatural lanyard that I kept my ID on, and then saw the anime pins I had stuck to it. "I see you like anime," he said, kinda startling me. Because nobody really talked to me. "Oh, yeah, I've really just been watching Yu-Gi-Oh! And Black Butler recently," I replied. Just trying to be nice, not really wanting to spark up a conversation. Like I said, extremely introverted. Also, I have some pretty bad anxiety, and any awkward social interaction will give me the shakes and light wheezing. He then pointed to my shirt, a retro-style wrestling shirt from the show Fall Brawl. My mom got it for me since it had a skull on it. "You like wrestling?" he asked. "Great." "A little," I answered. Seeing his face was confused at my short answers. "That's not my style, I'm into Gundam," he answered. To this day, I still don't know what it is. "Oh, okay," I replied, seeing my teacher coming. I hated this woman, but in that moment I loved her. "You should come over later and we can watch Gundam together," GB told me. I didn't even know this guy's name. "Sorry, I have some homework and I don't really know you," I replied, feeling like I was about to have a panic attack and scurrying into class. Later that day, I get a friend request on Facebook and see an unfamiliar name. I saw we had a lot of mutual friends, so I accepted it. I had friended a lot of people from my college to keep up with courses. Then I get a message. It was Gundam beard. I had never told him my name. Our roll call was just us signing our name on a piece of paper, and my signature is barely readable. At the time, my profile picture wasn't even one of myself. How did he find me? "Hello, my lady," the message said. Yep, he said it. I ignored it the first time, then he just kept messaging me until finally I just said, "Oh, hey, you're the guy from math," I replied. I don't remember all the details from the conversation, but I do remember that all he wanted to talk about was anime. At that moment, I remembered to make sure I didn't wear any anime shirts to class, ever. He waited by the door every single class just to talk to me. When I say waited to talk, I mean get me stuck in the hallway by standing in front of the closed door, and always made me late. I finally started telling him that he needed to move so I could get to class because I needed to hear all the lecture I could. This just led to him wanting to tutor me if I came to his house. Again, I said no. Guys, this went on from September 2014 to May of 2015 until summer break. Oh, the joy of not having to see this creep, but the messages on Facebook still continued. In the summer of 2015, I had to have surgery to remove my tonsils and adenoids, and I wasn't able to talk for at least a week, so I mostly just played video games with Mason, Phoenix, and Link. We decided to all play Black Ops 3 in a private Capture the Flag lobby. Since I couldn't talk, Mason was my voice. The whole time we were playing, my phone was blowing up with messages from GB. Apparently, he had found out that I had surgery and said I needed someone to take care of me. GB, I had a tonsil and adenoid, I can't talk. I don't need anyone at my house, I'm just trying to game with my friends, please leave me alone. I messaged back before getting to the game. Mason was playing as the Hive and I was playing Overdrive. Around 20 minutes later, my mom comes in. Faith, you have a visitor, she said. What? I hadn't invited anyone over. Other than Phoenix and Link, I didn't have any friends that came over. It was too late for my grandparents to come by, so I just shrugged and shook my head to her. Hey, Faith! I heard that nails on a chalkboard voice say as the color visibly drained from my face. It was, you guessed it, Gundam Beard. 1, I told him to leave me alone. 2, I never told this guy where I lived. Mason explained what was going on to Phoenix and Link while I was on the verge of a panic attack. Gundam Beard ended up taking over my game since I couldn't speak. Headset and all. My mom said that my grandparents wanted to see me since they lived right next door, so I left and went with her. We went to my grandparents and explained, so they let us hide out. My mom then asked me why I had invited Gundam Beard over. That's when it hit me. He had lied to my parents just to come to my house. I got my phone out and typed out exactly what had happened. Now, my mom is a really sweet woman, but if you mess with her babies, she's like a mama bear. She was pissed. I got another message and saw this time it was from Phoenix. Hey, Faith, are you okay? He asked as I explained the situation. Phoenix asked if I needed him to come get rid of him, and I said that Mason could handle it and I didn't want him to waste an hour round trip and the gas just to scare this guy off. But if I needed him to keep his phone close. At least 2 hours later, I got the good news from Mason. Hey, Faith, Gundam Beard finally left. You can come home now. I told him that he had to leave. He said, thank goodness. I messaged Phoenix just so he wouldn't end up wasting a trip anyway. Over the summer, I just ignored every message Gundam Beard sent. So he started to send me gifts. Thankfully, my mom said I couldn't have visitors every single time. She was my hero. Finally, I decided that I was gonna make him leave me alone in person. When classes resumed in the fall, I had made a new friend. Braid. She always wore her hair in a braid whenever I saw her. I had explained the whole situation to her, and she was just as creeped out about it as I was. When we walked into class, we saw Gundam Beard with his desk sitting right up against the one beside him, which just so happened to be mine. No way I was sitting there again, so I sat in the very far back corner behind Braid. After class, Gundam Beard came up to me again. Hey Faith, I sent you gifts over the summer, but you never replied to me on Facebook. It's fine though. We can talk about it over lunch, he said as I gripped the strap of my messenger bag. Gundam Beard, you showed up at my house uninvited, lied to my parents. I never even told you where I live. It's creepy, and I do not like it at all. I don't want a date, I just want to be left alone. So please respect my wishes. I do not want a boyfriend. I am only here for my degree. Even if I did want a boyfriend, I wouldn't want some creep that stalks me and lies to my family. I told him, quickly scurrying to my dad's car in the parking lot. Over the next few weeks, I kept noticing a car driving past my house. Wasn't too hard to figure out who it was since the car was Gundam Beard's Facebook profile picture. I unfriended him on Facebook, stopped replying to any messages, and I never left class alone. This went on until I was finally transferred to a different math class and blocked him on Facebook. I later found out that he would hit his mother and threaten to burn down his house for not getting his way. I saw him again at a cosplay convention last year, but thankfully, I had Mason and Phoenix with me. Mason was dressed as Toby from Naruto, Phoenix was Ghost Rider, and I was cosplaying as Lara Croft, so I was able to hide and actually didn't have to deal with him. I graduated from college with my degree as part of the Honor Society after 3 years. I'm currently doing much better and should be moving soon. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to this adventure. I hope you all have a wonderful and neckbeard-free day, ladies and gents. 2. This happened in the early 2000s, and set in a certain movie retail chain that was extremely well known in the US at that point in time. I'm going to refer to these two together since they were a couple, and individually I don't know if there's enough for their own posts. Movie Beard, 30s, dating and living with Movie Beardette. Movie Beardette, early 30s, has 2 to 3 kids, can't remember exact number, isn't important. Just that she had them, kids were about 6 to 10 in age. Setting, movie store during the 2000s in a town that's on the smaller side. It wasn't super tiny or anything, but it was small enough that it wasn't uncommon for people to know each other, particularly if you had interest in anything considered niche. If you were interested in comics, for example, you would almost absolutely know the people who frequented the comic book store, since it was the only one in the general area unless you went into the city. I became acquainted with this couple after Movie Beardette moved to our store. I can't remember the exact reasons, but essentially, it was because of HR's policy on couples. Basically, it was something along the lines of you couldn't have 2 people dating in the same store if one was at a higher management level than the other. Movie Beard stayed at the old location. My specific introduction to Movie Beard was when he called to check on whether or not we had a film, something that was fairly typical. He was flirty, and I responded to it, since it was nice to receive the attention and he had a nice voice. As soon as I got off the phone, the store manager made sure I wasn't actually interested in him, and made me aware that he was dating Movie Beardette. She also filled me in some other things about him that would immediately invalidate him as a dating candidate. The guy was the type who viewed himself as highly intelligent and saw those around him as morons. Even if he did view you as intelligent, you were never as smart and clever as he was, and he would continually talk you down. The guy would try to sleep with any woman that fit within his preferred age range. I know that he made people pretty uncomfortable, but he was smart enough to keep his creepier actions under control for the most part. I remember he got in trouble because of his interest in a teller at the bank his location used. What got him in trouble was that the woman started working at another branch that was just outside the distance limits that the company allowed. I'm not sure if her move was due to him or other reasons, so I don't want to speculate on that. In any case, he began driving to her location to perform the daily banking tasks. It was eventually discovered, of course. I can't remember if he was fired over this or not, but I wouldn't be surprised. Now, Movie Beardette was her own interesting person. She generally wasn't that bad to work with as long as you did your job and kept the conversations to general topics such as, well, movies. Her main issues really pertained to Movie Beard. Despite living with and being in a relationship with her, he would refuse to watch her children. I can't remember what his requirements were to watch the kids, but ultimately he wouldn't watch them even when she was unable to find a babysitter. If she could find a babysitter and he wasn't working, there would be Movie Beard staying with them while they were being watched, unless the kids went to the other person's home. This led to her having to take them with her to work. Initially, she was allowed to keep them in the back room with the implicit understanding that this was a temporary solution, and that they would behave and clean up after themselves. They could watch films on the TV and VCR set up back there, but they would need to surrender any video if a customer wanted to watch it, and also put back any movies they watched. This setup ended after the kids made a huge mess in the back and weren't great at putting movies back. But even if they were angels the entire time, it would have still been a temporary thing and only for rare times when there were no babysitters available. Store manager was a single mom, so she understood that things happen. To be honest, the store manager was more frustrated with Movie Beardette for not cleaning up after them. This led to Movie Beardette leaving them in the car while she worked. The final straw came during the winter when a customer called the store manager about the kids being in the car, as it was very cold outside. On a related side note, we had our regulars like any store, and as such, it wasn't uncommon for us to talk to the customers for a longer period of time while checking them out or outside of work. Not as a hookup thing, just to be friendly. This one guy happened to be someone who had the store manager's number. The guy reported that he was in the store for about half an hour and saw that her kids were hanging out in the car in the parking lot. The car's engine was on and they had heat, but come on. That's not good for the kids or the car. I seem to remember this being an issue in the past, as she would sneak the children into the store once the store manager or certain employees weren't working. But eventually she would just keep them in the car. What ultimately happened is that the store manager drove up, caught her, and made her take the kids home. Store manager asked about Moviebeard and was told that he didn't want to watch them. Come to find out way later on, apparently this spilled into her non-work life as well, after the younger kid mentioned to his teacher that he hated it when Mommy made me stay in the car while she worked, since it was so cold outside. So CPS was brought in, but I don't know what came out of any of that. 3. To put this into context, I'm an individual who likes to enjoy games in my own way. Being mildly autistic, I find that I enjoy many of said games in a way that some hardcore fans might rip on me for. Example, I prefer to collect Pokemon rather than caring about stats and movesets. I like to explore landscapes in Skyrim rather than focus on the main quests of the game. I am a minimal builder in Minecraft, etc., etc. And I use video games as an escape for my own mind rather than something competitive. But in my last few years of playing in my own little fantastical and whimsical way, I've drawn the attention of a neckbeard that just won't quit hounding me, demanding to know why I don't play properly. The term properly being his way of playing, which is all about coming out on top of the gaming community. I met him in college through a friend, and as usual in these stories, he seemed a cool guy. But since lockdown, he's become little more than a pain in my ass when it comes to even trying to tell the guy I'm not interested in competition. Now, Fanbeard isn't your typical type of neckbeard. He's scrawny, wears glasses, and looks more like a geek than any of the stereotypes that one would associate with a neckbeard. He had a neckbeard, however, and the typical greasy hair, but no howling wolf shirt or fedoras. Sorry. By the time this story took place, I had known him a little under a year, and I had made my first mistake already. I have little trinkets secured to my bags, as I like to stand out to myself whilst out. I have a large Batman rucksack that I wear because it's light, and I, despite being of a large physique, I'm ashamed to admit I'm not as strong as I look. On this bag I have one of those little Funko Pop keychains of the Jared Leto Joker. I'm not the biggest fan of that Joker, but the keyring was from my dad, whom I very rarely saw and still very rarely see as he lives on the other side of the country. So you can imagine my shock when Fanbeard rather rudely confronts me about it.
Ew, you actually like that character?
Not really.
Then what's that?
After explaining to Fanbeard that it was a gift from my dad, he said something that nearly made me snap at him.
You think that having a retro Batman bag, he might have gotten you something a little more cool, rather than that?
I'm a grateful child. My dad had not much money that year, yet he still shelled out £8 on helping me embrace my then newfound geekiness. So to hear someone slandering me for keeping a memento on my bag was infuriating. Then came mistake number 2. I always carry around my 2DS in case. It's therapeutic to switch on a game and get lost in fantasy while on my lunch break. I have a Pikachu case, which automatically caught Fanbeard's attention.
You play Pokemon?
Yeah, I'm trying to find my Pokédex.
Collecting? I battle. I'm one of the best.
Oh, good for you. I proceed to play. Well, when I say play, I mean mess about on the Poke Refresh, as I mainly like to use my Pokemon as a type of virtual pet, which made them stronger in battle slightly. I didn't care about stats. I just wanted to look at the cute little creatures. It defeats the purpose, I know, but that's my choice, no? I glanced up to see Fanbeard get up and walk behind me, peering over my shoulders slyly.
Poke Refresh, where's the battles?
I explained to Fanbeard that I more so like to tame my little pocket monsters for fun, and he starts asking about the stats. I'll be honest, I don't really do stats. I pick a creature, and if it wins, it wins. If it loses, it loses. I just like to look and play with all the cute little things I can find. as my mind is stimulated by things that I find cute and interesting, hence collecting and taming. He starts to boast about some stats and other jargon that I don't understand, before saying he could whip my butt in a battle, to which I just shrugged.
My fire types could torch your ass. What you got? Pedalil or something?
I looked at my team. I'm a big fan of Ghost, Dark, and Psychic, mainly because of the creepy and cool entries that come with them. I shrugged slightly, not really caring about what is now becoming a competitive, one-sided argument. I just left him to vent, getting up and rolling my eyes as I went off to find a quiet spot away from him. A word to the wise, if someone enjoys something, just let them enjoy it. If they want your opinion, then they'll ask for it. 4. My freshman year of high school, I was what you would call beard bait. I was extremely unconfident in myself, though that's changed. Yay, nerdy, still am to be fair, a pushover, and smaller than the beard in question. On to the beard in question. From here on out, I'm just going to refer to him as Theatre Beard. I met Theatre Beard in my theatre class, duh. He was a typical neckbeard, tall, larger, neckbeard, poor hygiene, loud, and an apparent lack of social awareness and knowledge of personal space. He didn't necessarily smell super bad, but you could definitely get a whiff of BO if you were sitting by him. Which I was. He sat right behind me. In theatre, when we were in the theatre, so we sat in the rows of seats you would sit in when going to see a play. The first week of school wasn't super eventful Theatre Beard-wise, besides a few looks and him standing a bit too close. The second week, he started talking to me about random things going on in theatre. Now, admittedly, this part is a bit of my fault. He asked for my number, and since I had never been in Reddit before, and also didn't know how to say no to people, I gave it to him. He would text me about random things, send me mildly inappropriate memes, call me cute, or ask me, "Why are you like this?" All very condescending, flirty stuff. However, I don't like to assume, so I don't make a fool out of myself. I convinced myself he was just being friendly in an awkward kind of way. Looking back now, I wish I hadn't engaged as much as my innocent young anxious to have everyone like herself did. The third week was when it started to become weird for me. He would try to sit by me and try to work on projects with me. He would walk by and boop me on the head or jab me in the side. I remember timidly asking him to knock it off quite a few times, but he never did. This was around when seats were assigned, and he sat behind me. He would constantly mess with my hair, pulling on it or messing it up, which was the end of the world for self-conscious me. He would try and talk to me while the teacher was talking. This continued for a while. I talked to my friend in that class, and he agreed that Theatre Beard definitely liked me. Theatre Beard was sitting near us when this conversation happened, so I didn't mind him overhearing how uncomfortable it made me. Maybe he would take the hint. He did, and he didn't, respectively. He did stop texting me as much, but he didn't stop messing with me. If anything, it became more of an aggressive thing than a flirty thing. He began to mention how often he has gotten in trouble, how much he doesn't care about school, and he went to jail and wouldn't mind doing it again, and he doesn't mind hitting women. All, if you know me, are big nopes in my book. He would come by and jab my stomach. When I and my friends asked him to stop, Theatre Beard just said, "Make me." I was too timid to, so nothing happened. Finally, towards the end of the year, he seemed to lessen up a bit. I was overwhelmingly thankful. Little did I know that this was to come before the admittedly anticlimactic ending, now that I'm typing this out, storm. Me and my friend, Elliot, were walking in the hallway towards our next class when Theatre Beard stood right in front of me, blocking my path. Elliot just stood there, kinda confused. I had complained numerous times about this guy to my friend group, but none of them had ever met him. Theatre Beard stands super close to me, a large stack of papers in his hand, and mutters something. It took me a while to make sense of what he had said, and by the time I realized he said, "You're not going to like this," it was too late. The hand with the papers swung forward and struck me straight across the face with the stack. Funnily enough, not the first time I had been struck across the face in school. I was so shocked I barely had enough brain power to croak out a, Why would you do that? Stay away from me!" before running to the bathrooms. Elliot just stood there the entire time, which kind of irks me to this day, and I told him I would see him at lunch. When I had time to recover, I was livid. The whole situation was just so upsetting and terrible. I ended up going to my school resource officer and reporting him. I didn't press charges, but simply insisted that they tell Theatre Beard that I wouldn't hesitate if he pulled more crap like that. Luckily, this year he isn't in any of my classes, though I do have to walk past him every day on the way to class. I still flinch when I walk by him and hear his voice. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed my hell story. 5. Please be aware the following story contains references to animal cruelty. While not graphic, it is, however, an essential part of the story, and would otherwise not be included. I'm not quite sure how to start this, so I'll just mention the parties involved and see if it just flows naturally from there. I have known about these for a while, but I've been reluctant to share my story due to it being ongoing. Location: hometown in Not America. I joined the military as soon as I was able. I had to leave due to injuries 4 days before my 10th year since enlistment. I have moved back home to look after my grandparents and attend university. Evans, not his real name, the neckbeard of the story, appears to have never matured in the 10 years I was away. He attempted to join the military but was rejected for weight reasons, tried YouTube and failed. Then he attempted to do a diploma in IT and naturally failed. Found himself in a cushy job in a mom-and-pop type computer parts and pop culture and gaming store. He does very basic computer repairs and custom builds in the repair building next door. But he thinks he's like Steve Jobs or Bill Gates. Chloe, also not her real name, my school year crush, and one of my childhood best friends. We have not spoken for 6 months, so I don't know how she's doing now, but at the time she was working sales at the same store as Evans. She had wanted to become a model, but never really made it. She was always very attractive, but I think she just matured mentally and surrendered her dream for something more achievable. On to the story. I come from what used to be a very small coastal town of only 2,500 people. It's become a lot bigger now and is being absorbed by the city, but it was the kind of place where everyone knew each other, and evidently not many I grew up with left. In fact, no one did. Out of the 400-ish kids from the area I went to school with, I am one of only 4 who actually moved away. This has evidently made me a local hero among my age group, something I find to be kind of funny and cute. On paper, I'm still in the army. I'm just on unpaid leave until my contract runs out in 2022, but realistically, I'm out. I moved back home with my grandparents, had a guest house built on their land, and started to attend university. Coming back home was a very surreal experience that was like Frodo and co. coming home in Lord of the Rings. Not a lot changed, it's picturesque, hence why no one leaves. But I had changed in ways I could never express, and what I was not expecting is that all the people I grew up with were now running everything. They were cops and bakers and supermarket workers, bank tellers. One was even a pediatric doctor. For a while I thought it was a dream. It was an odd experience. Part of me could not believe I was home. Yes, I had been back on certain years, but it was during Christmas when everything was shut. So I didn't leave the family home anyway. I had taken the rest of 2019 off to acclimatize to civilian life again, something I'm still not used to. During this period I tamed some ring-tail possums that live on the property. This is important for later on. Right as university was about to start, right when COVID began ramping up, I needed my computer for homeschooling. My RAM had decided it wanted to die, so I headed to the store. This is when I met Chloe and Evans. I walked in the store and couldn't help but beam to myself. The store, a significant part of joy for me growing up, was still here. There were still computer parts from when I grew up, now sun-faded, still for sale. The store had grown in size, it had taken the 2 buildings next to it, but it still had the same smell of carpet cleaner and new electronics that I knew from childhood. Then I saw Chloe. She was staring at me wide-eyed, and looking around trying to find something to do or hide behind. I could feel my anxiety rising and my heart racing. Discreetly I did some breathing exercises, but decided to put both ourselves out of our misery. Something I didn't know how to mention before was that I can no longer date. As much as I'd like to, An odd side effect of my PTSD is that I now have a phobia of women who show interest in me. Set me off. This is suspected to be because around the time I started developing PTSD, I had 3 consecutive relationships ending in physical or emotional abuse and cheating towards me. Don't try and date while in the military, it won't work out. So I now need to carry around these pills called beta blockers to stop panic attacks, because even being asked for coffee or told I look nice can set me off, so it actually happens a lot by accident. Back to Chloe. I walked up to her and said, "Hey, hey." I gave her a smug look and nodded while looking around the store. "I can see your modeling career is really taking off." She turned red and looked to the ground, and I instantly felt like an asshole. I genuinely don't like hurting people. "Yeah, that didn't work out. Yeah. Anyway, my God, you're back. You look so hot now. Oh my God, it's crazy." Her comment made me uncomfortable, but I was using the interaction to take me out of my comfort zone and see how much I could handle. Yeah, I joined the army out of high school." "Yeah, I hadn't heard. That's so cool. Everyone's real proud of you." "Why? Also, how did you know?" "Your sister told us. My sister talks too much for her own good. Plus, you said you wanted to become a soldier, and you did. Everyone was really shocked. Only a few people actually did what they said they were going to do." We talked for a while. She felt embarrassed, realizing how she forgot to do her job, and asked me why I was there. She wanted to know why I didn't add her on Facebook, and why she couldn't find me. I said my fake name, a common thing for soldiers and cops on social media in my country, and she filled me in on what everyone was doing, including Evans. "Oh, Evans works here." "Yep, he most definitely works here." "Is he that bad?" "He's still Evans." She then motioned that he was now a lot fatter. "And he asks me out every Friday. Every single Friday, since I started here 4 years ago." "Why don't you go on a date?" She started listing things on her finger. He had a long-distance relationship with a 15-year-old when he was 21. His room is filled with toys. He still lives at home. I interrupted her. The long-distance relationship was messed up, if true. But as far as I know, she could just be saying that. Chloe and I were part of the popular groups, and Evans was bullied heavily, particularly in high school. For sometimes good reasons, but still bullied, and nevertheless, I don't like judgmental people. "But you still live at home." "But that's different." "How? I also live at home. Well, again." I think at this point she was realizing I don't like judgmental people. "Look, I'll take you over to him." We walked over to a wall with a beaded door and walked through. It instantly smelt of mildew, energy drinks, and body odor. "Evans, you in here?"
"Ugh, come on, my darling. I'm working. What is it?"
The "my darling" caught me off guard. It's an expression, but not one used by our generation. I mimed it to Chloe, who shook her head and rolled her eyes. I saw Evans come out from behind shelves of computer repair tickets and PC parts. Chloe quickly darted back out before he arrived. He was wearing a soiled company polo with a multicam bush hat and multicam combat pants. I felt this was weird because, though some camos are fashionable, these aren't. "Hey, man."
"Oh, hi. Where's Chloe?"
"How's things going? Chloe thought I should come and say hi."
"Well, hello. I've not seen you for 4 years."
10. This seemed to take him off guard, like he had only just realized how much time he had wasted between now and high school.
"Oh, it's been that long. I heard you became a scoutmaster or something."
I suddenly realized what Chloe had meant by still Evans. He would do this thing where he would put you down by using a backhanded statement. Like if you did 50 push-ups, he would say, "Good job, I heard you did 15 push-ups." No, I joined the army. I've been in my base's city for the past 10 years. I only just discharged.
"Oh, yeah, I tried to join the army. They said my IQ was too high, and I should go to university instead. You like my cams? They're issued. Feel right at home, I bet."
That's not how that works. You do take an IQ test, but you are not told the number. You get a selected amount of jobs you can do based on what your results were. For example, 116 is required for infantry, 130 is required for submariner, and some roles require you to have 140 plus and so on. Besides, I would later discover he was rejected due to his BMI being morbidly obese. That's not our cam pattern. Pretty cool, though. He suddenly had a look like he'd been caught out, like he'd been committing stolen valor, but toned down his lies for me, so he thought he was in the clear.
Oh, sorry, they are issued as special forces, not regulars like yourself. I got them from Mate.
He said this in an obnoxiously smug tone. I was not a regular, and I knew several special forces members. Oh, cool, what's their names?
Well, you wouldn't know, they're classified and stuff.
As Don Shipley once said,
if someone claims someone's file is classified, take the nearest pen and shove it in their eye.
Fair enough, I wouldn't know what special forces get issued, so yeah, I'll trust you. What did you study? I did know what special forces are issued, but I found long ago not to argue with civilians who think they're experts in the military.
I was doing a degree, it was a diploma, in computer science, it was IT and networking, but I dropped out.
Oh, cool, man. I'm starting that degree next year. Why'd you drop out?
My professors were fucking idiots and just wasting my time. I'm too smart for school. I'm doing YouTube and working at this place.
Evans, what if you lose this job? Where else will you go?
I'm not going to lose this job. Besides, my YouTube channel is starting to explode.
We talked for a little bit more. I just kind of wanted to go. I actually forget what we talked about, but as I was leaving, he grabbed me with his vice-like sausage fingers.
I just want to say, Chloe's mine.
Say again?
Chloe, she's mine. I've been working her for 4 years. You've been gone for a decade. You can't just suddenly come in and rekindle an old flame and take someone's mate.
I didn't know where to even start with what he just said, so I simply said,
Nah, I'm good, go for it. Because as one warrior to another, I will protect my mate.
I think he was a furry? I can't remember. Whoa, Evans, mate, calm down. Yeah, I got no interest in Chloe, it's cool. I walked out, looked for the RAM I needed, and then took it over to Chloe to ring up and just said, Evans, yikes. This prompted a giggle. I said I'd message her on Facebook later. Over the next couple of months, Chloe and I got really close. We would surf together, fish, hunt, and mountain bike, like when we were kids. She actually asked me out only a week or two after I came back, and I had to tell her I can't date any longer. After I had a panic attack like an asshole. She was so sorry, but to her credit, she didn't push it. Most girls try to do the, but I can heal you with my love, or I'm not like other girls thing, like life's a fairy tale. Evans I saw around, but didn't really interact with him much. I was starting to adjust. I joined a 24-hour gym, mostly to strengthen muscles for physiotherapy. I'd see Evans stare at me through the window, like he was deciding if he should join the gym too. He never really got it out of his head that I was trying to take Chloe from him. In fact, Chloe warned me Evans was getting more aggressive towards us being friends. Like he thought time was running out, and it showed. I wasn't the only one to join the army. My best friend also did, only as an officer. He kept in touch with a lot more people because he kept his real name on Facebook. Let's call him Captain.
So Evans just messaged me.
Yeah, he's fucking weird, eh?
He wanted to know if you were in the army, accusing you of stolen valor and stuff.
What? What did you say?
I said I'm fairly sure you were in, considering we have met during exercises. What have you been telling people?
Literally nothing my sister already told people. I was in, so I don't really bring it up. A couple people asked if I went overseas. I said yes.
Righto.
After that, I asked Chloe what days Evans didn't work. If you wanted a physical game or a mechanical keyboard, you pretty much had to go to this store. Unless you wanted to take a 30-minute train ride into the next city or next town over. One day, Chloe asked me out of the blue on Facebook. Check your possums. Nah, they'll be out later. I'll send pictures. They don't like a flash going off in their face, but I'll get you your possum updates later. No, I mean go check on them. Evans keeps making remarks like,
so how's OP's possums, and did you know possums have a lifespan of under a year in the wild?
I said I couldn't because their nest is in a tree 5 stories up. But I started to worry, and over 2 weeks they were not coming down to say hello or feed. I'd later find out the reason. In a small lane near the back of my house, I found 3 of the 5 possums dead, thrown behind building scrap. I won't say how they died, but it wasn't an accident. The surviving 2, a breeding pair, took a long time to become friendly again. One of them is still traumatized and won't let me pick him up or cuddle him, just hand feed. The possums are really important to me because if my PTSD is triggering, not the relationship thing, it will calm me down since my PTSD comes in the form of rage that can't be calmed. This can last days. The possums force me to be calm since they are small animals and are naturally flighty, like a mouse or a rat, so you can't be rough or loud with them. Chloe and I discussed what to do. I took pictures and sent it to the authorities, as the species is protected and actually endangered. Chloe made a complaint to her boss, but nothing happened on either front. Around this time, I started getting phone calls from people asking for drugs. Some reacted violently when I said they were being pranked or would call non-stop during the night. I asked where they were getting my number, and they said in the stalls of a nightclub near town, or handed a napkin with the number on it. I added two and two together. See, here you had to leave your number and address when you went into stores, in case you had the plague. So Evans had full access to it. The calls were relentless. At one point, a drug addict turned up to my house demanding drugs and money. They would always know my name and say my address to intimidate me if I did not cough up, which I couldn't. I went to police, and they have not done anything, something that still angers me. They said it's not a crime, and that even if Evans wrote a confession, it still doesn't constitute anything outside of maybe harassment, which isn't a jail sentence or even a fine. It's a few hours of community service at the level I claimed. This has caused me a lot of mental distress, and personally I'd like to sue his ass for damages. However, this story doesn't have a happy ending. One day when Chloe was at work, she had her final run-in with Evans. I was not present, so I can only write what she claimed.
Why do you like OP so much?
Evans, for fuck's sake, we are friends. You don't even know anything about him. We can't date.
Then why do you two hang out so much? Why won't you hang out with me?
You're an asshole? I know it's you trying to hurt him. Leave the guy alone. He's been through hell.
I don't know what you're talking about. He's just weak and can't handle being a warrior like myself. And I know my fair share of hardships. I've had to work with you every day, yet never embrace you.
You LARP in the park in this city, you fat shit. That's playing pretend.
I use the sword. Hand-to-hand combat is honorable even in training. OP needs to use a gun because he's a pussy and has no honor.
Evans, go away. I really don't want to speak to you right now.
Look at me, I'm OP. I'm so sad because I have no family, and my grandpa died. I'm so mentally weak. I saw a shipping container filled with dead kids. Wah!
In an effort to get him to leave me alone, Chloe had told Evans once the event that gave me PTSD. Chloe could not take it anymore and punched Evans straight in the face. Now I wish I could say that she got a promotion and a medal and that the cops surrounded the building and arrested Evans in black and white striped attire and a mask. I wish I could say that. What really happened was that Chloe was fired and charged with assault. She had to pay his medical bills for a broken nose and is currently on a good behavior bond. The Neckbeard case is ongoing. I've changed my number, but still manage to get the occasional call from time to time. The house visits from drug addicts have stopped, and so is the harassment. And the possums are happy and healthy. They even now have babies. Chloe did find herself a boyfriend and did manage to move to the city. We don't talk as much anymore, but that's life, I guess. She said her new boyfriend is now the target of Evan's harassment. But not having the mental issues I do, he just shrugs it off and doesn't bother them as much. Evans, as far as I know, still works at the computer place, but I don't go there anymore. I now take the train to the city to get what I need or order it online. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Neckbeards in the Wild, number 59. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use and sent in stories for use in this video. Special thank you goes to the author of the final story there. I know that cannot have been easy to live through while you were writing. To think about all the awful things that terrible, terrible creature did to you. I refuse to even call him a man or a human being. I will be reposting the helpline numbers that I posted yesterday in yesterday's Spinning Plates video. For the same reason, just if anyone needs them, they're there. If there's more regional numbers you think I should be adding, providing it's a reputable source, that's why I asked yesterday, because I didn't know the correct things to add. So if you know something that's missing that should be added, as far as helplines go, do let me know. I'll pop it in. Okay, and with that, I'm gonna head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.